Am I the a-hole for telling my sister-in-law she can't expect her kids to benefit from me being their aunt when she has always treated me badly and kept me out? I married my husband 4 years ago and I have known him for years. He has an older sister who does not like me. My crime? Her husband got a little too flirty with me when my husband introduced us all, and he had to be told to back off. But not just me, but my husband too. Of course, I was the cheap woman trying to steal her man. The fact that I never did anything to encourage it and actively told him to stop and walked away wasn't enough. It also wasn't an isolated thing with him, but my husband intervened to make sure he knew we meant business. She has 3 kids with a husband, and ever since that day we met, she has kept me at arm's length with her kids. And she's rude, very rude, has also treated me in very childish ways. But it's whatever. I won't force myself into a place I'm not wanted. I am kind to the kids, but she never wants me spending time with them or talking too much with them. But now she's jealous because my sister's children are close to me, and my husband and I spoil them since I have fertility issues and might never get to be a mom. She called my husband out first, and he told her that her kids were welcome, but he wasn't going to take money we earned together and tell me I need to stay home or not speak to her kids while they're with him/us. She then confronted me and accused me of treating her children badly. I told her she can't treat me badly, keep me out of her kids' lives, and expect them to benefit from me being their aunt. I told her I would love to spoil her kids too, but if I'm not welcome, then I can't. She said I was taking our issues out on her kids. Maybe I said things wrong here. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. I'm gonna say everyone sucks here. I think sister-in-law's pretty obvious on your part. I realize she's forcing this. But what I don't hear here is your husband discussing this with her or with her husband and just cutting her out of the discussion. This is coming from a petty dispute between you two. And for some reason, neither husband has gotten involved to try to work this out, according to what you have shared here. So from that level, I don't think you've done enough to resolve this for the kids. You are both making the kids suffer because of your own issues with each other. Have your husband and hers had an active involvement in either prolonging this or fixing it? My husband tried to fix things, but she thinks I'm a cheap woman out to steal her husband. After that, he could barely look at her when she called me that. Not the a-hole, but those kids don't deserve to be left out because their mom is like this. I'd find a way to do stuff for them in spite of their mom. I would hate for them to ever think you just didn't care for them. How would I do that without going against her boundaries? They are kids, even if it means them being left out. Anything outside of that, she could say I was kidnapping her kids. Not the a-hole. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. To be fair, sister-in-law's kids aren't winning any prizes because of their mom. I know, and that's really sad. But mom is the blocker to the kids having a relationship and all the benefits that come with that. Not the a-hole. So she wants her money for her kids, but doesn't want you around, is rude, and actively works against her kids having a relationship with you. She's an entitled a-hole, and she has only herself to blame. Another human who decided to walk in shadow. The brother-in-law has to wear some of the blame too. I don't actually think the brother-in-law's to blame for the way sister-in-law is treating OP. Sister-in-law made a choice to blame OP and take out her frustration on OP instead of placing the blame where it's due. For the record, brother-in-law's awful, and what he did was awful. Sister-in-law's equally awful for making OP the scapegoat. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to offer my spare room to my cousin, who was recently kicked out of her parents' home for being gay? Context. Rebecca, 32, female, recently came out to her mother, 50s or 60s female, and it didn't go well. Her mother harbors strong homophobic beliefs, so I, 30 male, wasn't surprised that she reacted poorly. I was surprised, however, at how badly her mother took the news. To make a long story short, her mother kicked Rebecca out and all but disowned her. This happened last Saturday. The dispute. This afternoon, Rebecca called me to ask if she could stay in my guest room until she figures her situation out. I spent the day mulling it over, but ultimately decided to decline the request. Here's a summary of why. I'm not close to Rebecca. In fact, if anything, we have somewhat of a strained relationship. As we were rather close to age, we were often pitted against each other in terms of achievements and progress by various members of our extended family. As I grew up, I mellowed out, content to live life on my own terms. Rebecca, however, always took every opportunity to tear me down. Her latest slew of attacks against me involving her demeaning my job and claiming that my job added no value to society. I have no faith that Rebecca will figure anything out within anything remotely resembling a reasonable time frame. She's not exactly a functional adult. She's on her third degree after dropping out of her first two. She can't hold down a job, even the simplest part-time ones. As far as I'm aware, she's been unemployed for almost 2 years at this point. Rebecca has relied entirely on her parents for almost every facet of her life, be it having meals cooked for her, the cleaning, and ironing of her clothes, everything. Rebecca is very much a child despite her age. I'm not Rebecca's only option. Several of my cousins have their own places, even if they're just renting. Rebecca can go stay at theirs until she figures her situation out. And, unlike me, my cousins actually have a relationship with Rebecca and think fondly of her. The fallout. While I didn't expect Rebecca to be happy with my decision, I didn't anticipate her blowing up at me either. She called me selfish, that I took family for granted, and even attempted to label me as a homophobic. Like I said above, I was never that fond of Rebecca, so her words did not bother me all too much. What did hurt me were the words of some of my other cousins who I do care about, also accusing me of being inconsiderate. They say that as I'm the only one of my cousins who own my own place, and that I have an unused room, I should be offering that room to Rebecca. I don't know. Should I? How much do you owe family, even if you don't like that family? Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Rebecca's 32 years old, still living off her parents. Whoever takes her in will have a permanent house guest. Not roommate, house guest. Of course, the cousins want you to take her in. That way they don't have to. I'm surprised more people haven't mentioned her age. A 32-year-old getting kicked out of home and wanting someone else to support her? Hard pass. Right, she's accustomed to doing absolutely no adulting. Hasn't worked in 2 years. Whomever takes her in will need a whole skateboard, helmet, stick of dynamite / Looney Tunes Acme kit to get her out of their house. Not the a-hole. While the reason she got kicked out sucks, Rebecca's an a-hole who just so happens to be gay. It's your home, and based on your reasons listed and the information provided, I can't say you're in the wrong for what you did. Could it be seen as insensitive? Yes, and I do see it like that, as I'm a big proponent of supporting LGBT people as one myself. But Rebecca has seemingly done little to earn such aid, and based on your description of how she lived with her parents, I wouldn't make her my roommate either. Her being family shouldn't give her the right to be an a-hole and freeloader in your home. I tend to think that the LGBT stuff is irrelevant here. It is a condition that caused her need, but it is not a cause for OP's denial of meeting that need. OP is being perfectly reasonable in saying no to Rebecca. Living with someone requires a relationship with a level of trust and respect that she and Rebecca do not share. While being sensitive to the fact that Rebecca just came out is important, it does not alter the fact that OP and Rebecca do not have the established relationship. That would make living together even a moderately okay idea. How much do you owe family? Well, when the family is a cousin who has been the a-hole to you for years, I'd say you owe her a big, fat 0. You are not the a-hole, and I hope for your sake that your other cousins realize it. It sounds as if they're mad at you, mostly because they might now have to step up themselves and help take care of her, and they clearly don't want to. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not going to my sister's baby shower because it was on my birthday? I, 22 female, turned 22 last month. I had plans for my birthday. My fiancé and I planned to go to an art museum in a neighboring city, then afterwards go to a buffet restaurant along with some friends. We organized this a couple of months in advance. My sister Lola, 31 female, is pregnant with her 4th child, and for some reason, she decided to host the baby shower on my birthday. I didn't know until she sent out the email invites around 3 weeks before the day. I messaged Lola and told her that I'm sorry, but the shower's on my birthday, and I already made plans to celebrate my birthday. I don't know if Lola just forgot when my birthday was, which I doubt because our birthdays are 10 days apart. But she got really defensive and passive-aggressively said that it's fine that I don't prioritize family. She told me I'm being selfish. Lola told our parents about it and they got mad at me and demanded that I cancel my plans to go to the baby shower and implied that my unborn sibling will hate me if I don't. I ended up not going to the shower and everyone is royally angry with me. Lola has me blocked and everything, and my parents are demanding that I apologize to her. Now for the top comments. Not today, Hole. You cancel plans for the first baby, but I'm surprised the fourth child even gets a baby shower. She should have plenty of baby supplies from the first three, so this just sounds like canvassing for free diapers. I feel it's okay to have a baby shower for the fourth, if the first three are the same gender and this one isn't. But sister is definitely entitled to demand sister to change her birthday plans for a lame baby shower. Not today, Hole. Why can't the kids all wear the same clothes as infants? It doesn't really matter at that age. Yeah, that's true. But from reading this post, I bet the sister just wanted the attention. Not today, Hole. Your sister had 22 years notice not to book that date, but I guess she doesn't prioritize family. This, accusing you of the very thing that she did and your parents supporting? I'm getting golden child vibes. Not today, Hole, but your sister is. Pay her no mind, and good on you for sticking with your plans. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister she can't live with me or stay with me? I'm 18 female. I'm a high school senior who moved out of my parents' house a week after my 18th birthday and who does not plan to move back in. Ever. My sister is 16. And since we were little kids, our parents have pushed the idea that sisters are friends and that your sister is the person you put before all other friends. And you do whatever they need from you. This always ended up very one-sided. With me needing to bring her with me when she wanted to come, me needing to let her sleep in my room and sometimes my bed when she had bad dreams, me missing out on a field trip because my sister fell sick that day and couldn't go on hers, me needing to take her to prom with me because she wanted to go. Stuff like that is the norm for us. She adores me, no doubt about it. But I do not think of her as a friend and I do not like her very much. She's very bad at being a friend, and not just to me. She's selfish and always wants to do stuff she likes, and doesn't take the time to do stuff others want to do, even though she expects you to do her stuff. We don't have common interests either. For years, I complained to my parents about it, how I felt like it was unfair that I had to prioritize my sister over my actual friends. They sent me to therapy and told me she's my best friend. They grounded me once because I told them my sister was not my friend and she wasn't doing anything for me, yet I had to do stuff for her. This is why I moved out. My sister told me she'll move in with me in 2 more years, and she'll stay with me overnight sometimes. She asked about decorating her room at my place. She doesn't have a room. I told her as much, and I told her we would not be living together again, and she was not allowed to spend the night. She asked why, and I said I ran away from home, and she wanted to know why. I told her life will be very different now. She wanted to know if I would drive her to a Christmas fair her school is taking part in, and I said no. I told her she couldn't use me anymore. She brought up staying overnight again, and I made it very clear that would never happen, and she cried and called me mean. Then my parents tried to reach me, but I blocked them when I moved out. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You are setting boundaries now that you're an adult. Good for you. It really sucks that the parents have essentially destroyed any resemblance of an actual sibling relationship that Opie and her sister could have had by pushing them so hard. Not the a-hole. Your sister doesn't understand because just as you've been raised to cater to her, she's been raised to expect it. She doesn't know anything else. Show her something else. You can bask in your newfound freedom without cutting your family completely off. Remember, you have full autonomy now. You can dictate how much you'll do. You can end a conversation. You set the rules of your home. You can train them all in how to deal with you. I agree/disagree with this assessment. I would like to think that parents and little sister will have the golden light bulb go off and realize what has been allowed to happen. However, I live in the real world and know it won't. At least not for a very long time, with multiple attempts by both parents and little sister to ignore the boundaries and walk all over OP. The family needs to be cut off until they realize that OP is no longer the third parent in this relationship. Giving any leeway will result in them boundary stomping OP over and over again. The only other option I can think of is to have one very frank discussion with the entire family where OP comes right out and says, "My entire life has been spent being her caregiver, and you have ignored every attempt I have made to rectify the situation. Heretofore, I will no longer babysit, provide transportation, provide companionship/devote all my free time to raising your daughter. You may ask me to, but you should expect me to say no and have alternate arrangements. And as for you, sister, it is high time you get your own life and stop co-opting mine. You will not be living with me. You may not even be allowed to stay overnight if you are unable to comprehend that I am not willing to spend all my life taking care of you. You may not be in my life at all, depending on how well you adhere to my boundaries. You don't have to like it, but you will stop walking all over me, or you will all be put in a timeout until such time as I feel you might respect me, and then walk away before they can argue. I wish hope you well, but don't foresee the parents realizing how awful they have been. Am I the a-hole for calling the police on my niece who stole my car? I, 46 female, live on a farm with my husband and 2 kids. My brother Dwayne, 38, has a daughter. We'll call her Emma, 15. My brother and his wife have always been very quick to compliment me on the behavior of my children. Angela, my sister-in-law, confides in me about Emma's troubles. Emma is very reckless, shoplifts, drinks, has an old boyfriend, and gets into fights at school. She's also constantly suspended in and out of school. Over the summer, Emma had a run-in with the law, and they were told that if she didn't straighten up her act that she would end up in prison. They were suggested and tried therapy, but Emma never would participate. Dwayne asked me if I would take Emma and teach her some responsibility, but the arrangement was that I would take Emma for the final month of summer, enroll her in school here, and keep her for the first semester. If all went well, Emma was welcome to stay with us. Otherwise, other options would be explored, those of which are unknown to me. Emma did not do well all through July. Her boyfriend drove over to visit her to my dismay. I tried to make him leave, but it caused some backlash, so I figured I would set visitation then wean her time from him more and more. Then I caught her smoking one of those electronic cigarettes, twice. She would never do any of the work asked, would talk back, steal food, break things, and would be rude to my children. All of that could be dealt with. I knew that once school came around, she needed to be more disciplined. So one morning we got into an argument because I told her I was chaining up the fridge and that she better act right, or else she will be forced to scavenge for her food around the farm and cook it herself. If she doesn't want to contribute, she gets nothing the household has worked for. She was livid, throwing stuff, stomping her feet, and making rude gestures. My son and I left to go to tend to the animals' morning duties, and told her that she better catch up to get some chicken tonight or start preparing to pick some vegetables for herself. After an hour of work, I sent my son back home to get me a change of pants due to a fall. He came back asking me if Dad had taken my car. We quickly realized Emma had stolen my car. Not only that, but she did not have a license, only a permit. I did what any reasonable person would do in this situation and called the police. They found her 2 hours later and arrested her, saying she was to be charged with a misdemeanor for driving without a license and, I believe, joyriding. My brother and his wife are furious with me. They told me she steals our cars all the time and always brings them back, which that would have been good information for me to know beforehand. My family siding with them that calling the police when knowing she would be arrested was an a-hole move. Just to tack this on so I don't have to reiterate this to everyone who comments about the fridge bit. That was more or less an empty threat. If it came to it though, I can't say I would have totally ruled that out as crossing the line. Also, about stealing food, part of what I do is I bake and sell what I make at a farmer's market nearby. She would take cakes, pies, and other pastries I would make and eat them herself. I would make some little versions for the kids, but she would take the whole portion meant for sale and eat it herself, and throw out the extra. She would throw away 3/4 of a cake. Please note we live on a vegetable farm. She has access to vegetables and fruits. When I say scavenge, I mean go outside and pick something to eat and cook. I'm not denying her food. Now for the top comments. Not day-hole at all. She steals our cars all the time and always brings them back. Well, now we know where she learned all this from. If they expected you, her aunt, to just brush off her stealing your car, imagine what they let her get away with. We sent her to live with you because what we're doing isn't working. But how dare you do anything differently from what we were doing? LMAO, exactly. They just wanted to be rid of her. Stupid parents. Not day-hole. She stole your car. She assaulted your son. I don't know how I feel about chaining up the fridge. That seems borderline abusive, but as for everything else, I'm on your side. Lock her up. That was more or less an empty threat. If it came to it though, I can't say I would have totally ruled that out as crossing the line. Send her back. She doesn't respect your rules or your authority, and you don't realize it now, but having there is definitely impacting your children negatively. Also, her parents and your family sounds ungrateful. Send her back. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not giving up my bed for my boyfriend's daughter? My boyfriend has 3 kids, 12 female, 7 female, 5 female. A wildfire broke out by their house and the neighborhood had to evacuate, so I told my boyfriend to bring his kids to my apartment. I've known his kids for months and they're all great kids, but they're a bit spoiled. My boyfriend's oldest daughter has health issues and they were at the hospital getting her treatments when the fire broke out. The younger 2 were at home with their nanny when the fire broke out, so the nanny took the kids straight to my place and my boyfriend joined us an hour or so later. My boyfriend came in carrying his oldest because she was asleep and he didn't want to wake her up. He asked where he could put her down, so I showed him to the room that I had planned on all of the kids and the nanny sharing. Nanny's a live-in nanny, and I guess she didn't have anywhere else to go. Room has 2 bunk beds, so everyone has their own bed. But he said he didn't want her to be in the same room as her siblings because she was going to need a lot of rest, and he doesn't want them to bother her. I asked where I was supposed to put her, and he suggested my room. I asked if he meant only for a few hours, and he said no, the whole night. I asked where we were supposed to sleep, and he said we can sleep on a pull-out couch. I said I wasn't giving up my room so his 12-year-old can have her own room, and he left with the kids and Nanny. Now he's saying he needs to rethink this relationship because I wouldn't sleep on my couch for one night to let his daughter rest without her siblings waking her up and bothering her. No a-holes here. Parenting is a tough topic to broach. Personally, I think a lot of parents cuddle their children beyond belief. That said, it's their choice. This sounds like it may just be a compatibility issue. Personally, I'd side with you, but I know a lot of parents that would be in this camp of doing anything for the children for even the smallest of things. I'm also leaning towards no a-holes here, but want to know what health issue the child has and what treatment she had received. That could explain the cuddling and could mean there was a legitimate need to have her rest undisturbed. She has some chronic illnesses and has to go to the hospital for treatments every couple weeks. Could be a lot of things, but that sounds like maybe IVIG or a biological. Both will wipe you right the heck out and leave you knocked on your butt for the rest of the day and the whole next day. And both younger kids are old enough to be told to keep quiet and leave the room if they wake up so they don't disturb their sister. So you graciously opened your home to 5 extra people at a moment's notice, providing a bed to everyone, but if you don't give up yours, it wasn't enough? I realized the oldest was sick, but the other children did not have to be in the bedroom if they were not sleeping, and there was a nanny there to ensure they were kept away from the older child. To me, it looks like a glimpse into your future where you will be expected to sacrifice anything he feels his children should be entitled to, regardless whether it is your private property or not. Just my honest opinion, not the whole. This is exactly what I thought. She gives them a place. That's not good enough. Like, dude, your kids are old enough to leave the room and stay out when they wake. What is the nanny for, if she's not helping keep them away? You can't expect someone that was nice enough to give them a place to go to give up their own bed and comfort to please you, or cater to your child. Also, people keep saying it's only one night, but is it? They got evacuated and no guarantees it'll be safe tomorrow, or for the next week, or longer. The kid is still going to be chronically ill tomorrow, and the next day and the day after that. Will boyfriend decide, well, actually she's more comfortable in your bed. We can stay in the futon. She's housing them in a time of need. They should be grateful. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to bring my nanny family's baby back home when they told me to? I, 27 female, have been a nanny for the same family for about 6 months now. It's a 1-year-old baby girl and she's the sweetest baby ever. I thought the family was really nice and that we had a good working relationship. Until yesterday. I always take the baby on walks, either around the neighborhood or we would walk down to the school shopping center where they have a little fountain and a bubble tea shop we like to hang out at. There's toys and games and she always has fun there. We walked down to the bubble tea shop yesterday and we're playing as usual. We're usually out for like an hour when it started raining. It drizzled a bit, so we went inside a shop to wait it out before walking back, and then it started pouring, like storming. It was awful and it rained for so long. I texted the mom saying, hey, it's raining really bad. So we're just going to wait it out, but we're at the bubble tea shop. She told me it was almost the baby's nap time and that I needed to head home now like usual. I asked her if she had looked out the window to see how bad it was raining, and she said, yes, the baby has a cover for their stroller. She will be fine. Please head back. I told her baby has a cover, but I don't have an umbrella or jacket and I'll get soaked and will have to finish out my shift soaking wet. I asked if she or her husband could just come pick us up, and she said it's my job to do what she says. I told her I was not walking back in the rain. After an hour, yes, it kept raining, her husband came and picked us up, apologizing, saying he was sleeping and didn't know we were out here in the rain. When we got back, Mom screamed at me, saying how dare I not bring her baby home when she told me to, and accused me of kidnapping. Dad said she was being dramatic but didn't really do much. She threatened to fire me and told me not to come in today and that we will discuss everything Monday. Was I wrong for not coming back? It was pouring. I didn't want to have to sit in a soaked clothes for hours. My hair would get ruined. I didn't want to get sick. Like, there's so many reasons I didn't want to be in the pouring rain. Plus, it didn't feel that safe. I guess if I'm wrong, I'll apologize Monday, but my boyfriend said she's being unreasonable and can't fire me for that. I feel like I should quit. I don't know. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Boyfriend says she can't fire me for that because of my contract. She has to give me notice 6 weeks if she doesn't want me to work for her anymore, or else she has to pay me for the time I'm missing. I also did check the weather, but it said it was raining way later that night. The sun was shining when we left. Mom also asks me to take her on these walks daily. I enjoy them, but a lot of comments keep talking about these walks as if they're for me. And yes, it was a thunderstorm. Now for the top comments. Not today, home. I bet should have complained if you or the baby got sick from being out in the cold/rain. You made a smart decision. That kind of rain sounds like a thunderstorm. Aren't most baby buggies aluminum? Yes, let me roll this lightning rod home. Or maybe my mom's don't take a bath or use the phone during a thunderstorm paranoia rubbed off on me. Not today, hole, but I wouldn't want to keep working for her after that. Threatening/accusing you of kidnapping could have serious consequences. It's scary how easily she went there. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm going to talk to the agency because there's a mistreatment clause in my contract. When you talk to the agency, use the terms shelter in place due to inclement weather for the safety of you and the child. Not today, home. Or maybe everyone sucks here? Her reaction was over the line and I would not continue to work for someone who screamed at me and accused me of a crime. I agree that you should contact the agency and quit. But was it like obviously supposed to rain that day? Are they really strict on nap time? Is baby difficult if she gets off schedule? If it rained for an hour plus, seems like that would have been something you'd have seen on the radar. If your poor planning is going to ruin the rest of their day with baby being off schedule, I can see how that would be frustrating for them. And sounds like the dad was able to pick you up. But expecting them to stop work and drive again because of poor planning would be even more frustrating. Dad was sleeping, not working, lol. And she stops working to go to hair appointments and to the gym. So I didn't think picking us up would be bad. I had no idea it was going to rain. Like, it started as sun showers, then got crazy. It wasn't supposed to rain until later that night. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for wanting to serve my ex papers for full custody and child support for my daughter now that he has a new baby? I, 31 female, have a wonderful 7-year-old daughter I would go to the moon and back for and have been supporting her as a single parent. My ex, 31 male, hasn't really been in her life since we split when she was 2.5. He hasn't paid child support for the last 4 years and has sporadically visited her at his parents' home when she visits. He says he will visit her while hyping her up and then not show up only to give BS excuses on why he never showed up, leaving her devastated and upset that he didn't spend time with her. He has blamed me for everything under the sun, which I can prove to not be true. For example, he blames me for not calling him so he can video chat with her on my days off, when he doesn't even attempt to try in the first place on his days off. He even stated he couldn't pay child support because he was rebuilding his car. My ex had seen multiple girls in the past 4 years, but has been seeing his current girlfriend for about a year at this point, and she has a 3-year-old daughter. He shunted our daughter to be his girlfriend's daughter's father, doing father/daughter activities like going to the pumpkin patch, holidays, and spending time with the 3-year-old. He forgot his own daughter's birthday for 2 years in a row and possibly for a 3rd time this year. Now, his family and I heard a rumor that the girlfriend was pregnant 3 to 4 months ago. His parents wanted to be in the baby's life, and I was ecstatic that my daughter would have a half-sibling since I don't want more kids. He vehemently denied she was pregnant, and we left the subject alone. Well, about 10 minutes before I started my shift, I was told and shown that my ex's girlfriend had their baby girl that morning. I was livid. He had lied to all of us that the baby was coming and severed whatever trust with him we had left. I started looking at family attorneys in my city because I know this will get messy. He wants parental rights without having to lift a finger or pay child support, while I want full custody since our daughter lives with me full-time. Before people ask, no, he's not in our daughter's life unless he wants others to see he's being a good dad. The last time he visited her, she didn't recognize him at all. Yes, I have filed for child support several times in the past, only for them to die in court because he didn't want to sign the paperwork. I'm at my wit's end with him. I vented to a couple of close friends and close coworkers about this, and the majority are saying I'm the a-hole because I should be excited for the new baby, and that with a new baby, he won't have the funds for child support. Am I the a-hole if I go through with getting a family attorney and serving him papers while he's caring for a newborn? Not the a-hole. I'm surprised you haven't already served him papers. Exactly. Also, the fact that he has a new child doesn't take away from the fact he's manipulating his eldest by being sporadic. It is only turning up occasionally to confuse her little soul and for a picture-perfect dad image. He's being a monster to her, and honestly, you're the a-hole OP just for leaving him the power to crush your little girl. He's not a father, let alone a dad. At most, he's a sperm donor that oversteps boundaries. Get your daughter out of that OP. Not the a-hole, but you should have done this from the very beginning. You need to retain an attorney now, and you need to remove yourself emotionally from him. His girlfriends, kids, whatever are none of your business. Your only focus needs to be on what's right for your daughter, or you're trapping yourself emotionally in a relationship with him when it literally doesn't exist. I'm not emotionally invested in him, especially with him cheating on me while I was pregnant and when she was 6 months old. He didn't come clean about until he ended our engagement. Am I the a-hole for making a scene after my sister-in-laws announced their pregnancies at my birthday as a gift? My 24 female boyfriend, 24 male, has 2 sisters, Emily 30 female and Diane 32 female. They are both married and trying for a baby. Diane announced her first pregnancy at Mother's Day this year. She gifted her mother a baby shoe and a positive pregnancy test. Everyone was happy, and even more when Emily told everyone that she was also trying for a baby. Later that evening, I texted them both saying, "Congratulations, I'm happy for you." It's a bit weird for me and my boyfriend because we recently learned that I'm sterile. I hope it didn't cut the mood, but I'm really excited for you both. They sent me some texts reassuring me and everything went well. Sadly, Diane lost her baby 2 months after this party. Fast forward to last week. We, mother-in-law, both sister-in-laws and I, met for a girls' night. My mother-in-law wanted to organize a party for my birthday, so she asked me if that's okay for me and what do I want. I said fine, but birthdays are tough for me. When I grew up, my parents always made my birthdays about them. They never invited my friends or close family. They always invited their colleagues and friends, and they had big parties where they drank a lot of alcohol. So after, I wanted to be sure to have a small party with close family, 12 persons, and nothing really big. The party was yesterday. I was helping my mother-in-law when both my sister-in-laws and their husbands arrived. They both also brought their in-laws and some friends. So what was supposed to be a small party ended up with more than 40 persons. My mother-in-law was a bit fuming because we had to go buy more drinks and foods for uninvited guests. The party went well until it was gift time. I opened gift for my mother-in-law and father-in-law, then one for my boyfriend. It was sweet. Next, my sister-in-laws gifted me one small package for them both, which is fine as I asked for small gifts if they were willing to give one. I opened it, and it was a small size shirt, a more XL, and as saying best future aunt. There was also written with a marker pen ×2. The package also contained 2 positive pregnancy tests and a photo of them both touching their bellies. I looked them in the eye asking, "Are you pregnant?" They both said yes. Emily took the shirt out of my hands and showed it to everyone. As I was starting to cry, I ran outside, my boyfriend following me. I had a panic attack. When I came back, everyone was happy and they were all congratulating the pregnant couples. I felt really sad. My boyfriend talked to his parents and we left the party without saying anything to anybody else. I received, in the evening, some nasty texts from some of my boyfriend's family saying things like, "Why did you ruin their announcement? It was only a birthday party. Please grow up." I do feel bad. My boyfriend is planning on telling them to buzz off, but I don't want him to ruin his relationships with his family. My father-in-law and mother-in-law called me to apologize, saying things got out of hand. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. It's your party and you can cry if you want to. I think your sister-in-laws both knew that you can't have children, right? Why would they want to co-opt your birthday to make it about them? And then not be compassionate when you got emotional? I don't know if everyone in your boyfriend's family are a-holes, but whoever sent you the text about ruining the announcement certainly is. The other ones may just be a little tone-deaf. They knew it. But when I first messaged them about my sterility, I told them that I'm happy for any pregnancy, and I don't want them to change anything just for accommodating me. Maybe they've seen this as a green light for what happened at my birthday party? I think they're feeling bad, because they haven't texted me anything yet. So maybe they understand that they hurt me. I really don't know. No, it's not a green light at all. It's still your birthday party, about you. Not wanting to change anything does not mean smearing your pain in your face. And not apologizing? Clearly they might see you're hurt, but certainly don't feel like they're wrong. So they learned you can't have kids, and really thought that announcing their pregnancies at your birthday party was a good idea? That is unbelievably cruel. Whether they're intentionally doing it or not, it really sounds like they're rubbing it in your face and expecting, no, demanding you be okay with it. Like, oh, sucks you can't have kids, but we can, so be happy for us. Both you and your boyfriend are not the a-hole here. Everyone else is, especially the sister-in-laws. Not even just announce it, but turn it into their gift with peed-on pregnancy tests. Like, it wouldn't have been so bad if at some point at a party they shared their news, since it was a family gathering, but the way they did it is just cringe. Definitely not the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for only taking my nieces and not their dad after my sister passed away? My female 33, sister female 36, passed away a month ago because of cancer. It's devastating, and words can't express how we feel. Her husband struggled to pay off debts, and has asked me and my husband to take him and my nieces, ages 13 and 16 in for some time. I have to say, I'm not on good terms with him. We've had more than our fair share of disagreements in the past. He tried to sue me and my husband for my own mother's house, which I'm living in with my husband and daughter. But he claimed he needed money to pay for my sister's treatment, and this was the only way to get it after we, my brother and I, refused to help. It's a long story, but we're not in good terms. So I agreed to only take my nieces in, but not him. He tried to negotiate this, saying his daughters are grieving and need him, their remaining parent, to be around. I said he could see them during visits, and that was it. My husband agreed with me at first. Then my brother-in-law showed up with my nieces days ago, and I only let the girls in but turned him away after he tried to talk me into letting him stay. We had a huge argument, and the girls went inside crying after their dad left, repeatedly saying they want him. My husband is backing out of this, saying we might be making a mistake separating the girls from their dad when they're grieving. My aunt berated me, saying I messed up entirely here. I argued that it's my home, and I don't feel comfortable with him staying after what he's done. She called me selfish and bitter and said I'm making it more difficult for the girls who just lost their mom. Now the girls are quiet, but my 16-year-old niece keeps arguing about wanting her dad with them. My husband still thinks we're making a mistake and making the girls resent me for what I did to their dad who's grieving. Not the a-hole. While it stinks that you can't be 100% supportive for the girls, it's his fault. You have to protect yourself. He's sued once. If he starts living there and establishes residency, he could try to squat. If other family are upset, they can take them in. It's OP's choice to help or not. I do not see the reason why she should let someone hostile to her live in the same house. I think it's already a lot that she offered to take in the girls while she did not have to. Yes, it's her sister's kids, but honestly, not everybody would do that in the same situation. If he wants to stay with the kids, he needs to find another arrangement. He is the parent, not OP, not the a-hole. We're all making the assumption it's actually OP's house. She even states it's her mother's house that they are living in. Oddly worded. She never once says she inherited a house. And bets money the inheritance is in question. I see a lot of YTA posts, but I'll risk the downvotes to say, this guy sued you. Was there any merit to it? Sounds like it was found in your favor. I wouldn't want him in my house either. The problem is, once he moves in, he's a tenant, and you can't force him out. Then you're even more of a perceived jerk for making them homeless if it becomes intolerable. He did not abide by your terms, but but showed up on your doorstep with no plan except to beg you, even though you told him what you could agree to. He said okay, but then tried to make it suit him. All these relatives could take him in or support him, right? Why is it all on you? Your brother-in-law is presumably in his mid to late 30s and only sought help from you? It's all on one estranged sister-in-law? This is an impossible situation, and frankly, nothing you would have done would have been enough. How can you ask him for money for the higher food, /utilities/gas expenses when he's grieving and broke? How can you not give him your car to get around when he's grieving and broke? How can you ask him about getting a job and getting back on his feet when he's grieving and broke? If your relatives wanted to help, they could send him money and help him get on his feet, rather than come after you to take on a family. I can't judge this, because in some ways you are an a-hole and in some ways you are being completely irrational, not wanting an enemy in your house for a long indeterminate amount of time and at your expense. But you were willing to help out the children and did not abandon them. You were willing to help up to your boundary, and your husband agreed. The flying monkeys just don't want the burden back on them, so they will come after you hard, as pressuring you is the easier solution than writing him a check or taking him in. You're voicing the concern I also have. He sued Opie once over a tenancy of the house. Once he moves in and stays more than a few weeks, he is a tenant. Getting rid of a tenant is not easy. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not giving half of my mom's inheritance to my cousin? Plus update. I-37 male was approached by my uncle, trustee of my grandmother's estate, 95 female still alive, a month ago, and was told that her irrevocable life insurance trust, ILIT, of $800,000 was to be split equal between him, $400,000, and my mom, $400,000, upon my grandmother's death. My grandmother pays the premium each year out of her estate. Now, sadly, my mother died of cancer 2 years ago, and per the rules of the ILIT, I have become the sole beneficiary of my mom's portion of $400,000. Now, a week after being told of this trust, I received a call from my uncle stating that it was now my grandmother's wishes that I give his son, my cousin, 32 male, $200,000 of the $400,000 I inherited from my mom. When asked what money he will be giving his son, my cousin, out of his portion of the $400,000, he said nothing. He will keep the full $400,000 because he is the son of my grandmother. If I were to agree, he would have me sign a contract saying I will give up $200,000, as legally he cannot change the rules of the trust or me as a beneficiary. Fast forward another week, and now I'm getting angry calls from my grandmother who has dementia, saying that she wants my cousin and I to have equal money, $200,000 each. It has evolved from $100,000 to $2,000 and now $200,000. She isn't able to articulate where the money is coming from. It alludes to it coming from me, my money, my will. My grandmother seems to have no knowledge of the trust being the source of the money, making it clear that my uncle has been coaching her and hiding the details of how the trust money is being dispersed. To make matters personally worse, my grandmother recently asked if I wanted to be written out of the family because I'm being greedy. I have also received a text from my aunt, uncle's wife, saying that I'm a bad grandson and have no relationship with my grandmother, etc. All untrue. I love my grandmother dearly and want this to stop. Now, another issue is that my uncle is saying that there will be no money in her estate. Well, at the time of her death due to her high cost of living, jazz band, movie theater, and 5-star restaurant and lobby at her retirement villa. And thus, no money for me or my cousin will be available from her estate. This is why he wants my mom's and my inheritance to be split up for his son, who he says will get nothing from my grandmother. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to split my mom's portion of her inheritance of $400,000, now my portion due to her death, with my uncle's son, my cousin? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole and lawyer up. Your uncle is up to something not good. I'm going to consult today. This is elder abuse. Your uncle is greedy and manipulating your grandmother. You are technically inheriting from your mom, and your cousin can inherit from his dad. If your uncle wants your cousin to have money, he can pass down what granny leaves to him. Your cousin is lucky to still have both his parents. You don't have that privilege, but that in no way requires you to share your mother's inheritance. If anything, it's a small conciliation for being without her, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole, but this sounds like a red flag for elder mistreatment. Please report it to the authorities. Please. My father has been pushing me to do just this. I'm an attorney, although not yours. This definitely sounds like elder mistreatment, and most police departments have a special unit that investigates. Some states also have adult protective services, which may be applicable here given that you say your grandma has dementia. Report this now, before it becomes a huge probate issue when your grandma eventually passed away. Edit. Thanks to all who have put in their advice. It's amazing to get an unbiased opinion. I have a consultation with an attorney at 1:30 p.m. today. We'll update all upon further guidance. Update. Spoke with attorney. Uncle is clearly in the wrong. It's an irrevocable trust and was set up this way not to be changed. The money is solely mine as the beneficiary of my mother who passed. There is no legal standing my uncle has to demand the scheme he concocted. I have no obligation to do anything. If he wants his son to have money, then he can give him money. Not my mom's, nor my responsibility. He said my uncle is being very greedy. He suggested I ask for a copy of the trust, and if it's not received, then he will demand it in a legal letter. As for the elder mistreatment, he said my uncle is definitely unduly influencing my grandmother against his fiduciary duties. He suggested I speak with my cousin and see if he can calm my uncle down to give him a last shot of coming to his senses. If the calls increase from my grandmother, then I could register a mistreatment claim and take further legal action. Last story. Am I the a-hole for asking our daughter to spend less time with her boyfriend? A year ago, my husband, 62 male, and I, 64 female, became semi-empty nesters once my daughter, 26 female, moved out of our home and to her first apartment. We miss her a ton, but it's been great to see her grow up. We still have our son, 20 male, left in the house, and we are waiting until he graduates so my husband and I can hopefully move abroad one day. A few months ago, my daughter has started dating someone, but we haven't even had a chance to meet him yet, and learning about her boyfriend has been like pulling teeth. We only found out she was dating when she sent a picture of herself to us one day. It looked like someone else had took it, and we asked who did. She said a friend. We asked who that friend was. When my daughter left home, she didn't have any friends at the time, and it was nice to hear she had made one. Even then, she beat around the bush giving details about who this friend was and how she met them. Anyway, we eventually learned of her boyfriend, but we have noticed she is spending lots of time with him. When we invite her to hang out with us on the weekend, she always declines and says she has something planned with her new beau. When we chat on the phone, she is often with her boyfriend at home, or out and about and so on. I understand this is her first relationship, and surely she is very excited, but it hurts a bit that she suddenly has no time for us. Last time we spoke on the phone, I jokingly said after she declined our last invite, "You know you can still spend time with your old parents, right?" But she took it much seriously than I intended. Is it so wrong to ask our daughter to spend more time together? Just some thoughts. The fact that you didn't allow her to date until 20 is ridiculous. It's also ridiculous you believe that this is her first relationship. Newsflash, she got used to hiding things from you. Why don't you leave her alone and work on whatever parts of how you treat her make her feel she has to do this? You're the a-hole. Seriously, when Opie said learning about her boyfriend is like pulling teeth, I was ready to say, take a hint. Your daughter doesn't want to tell you stuff. You may want to reflect on that. Gave me flashbacks to when I started dating my now husband. I had a horrible relationship with my father as a child, and the second I moved out of the house, I tried to keep my life as private as possible from them. A decade later and we're much happier. But damn, when you have a hyper-controlling parent, especially around dating, you become an expert at hiding things. Ugh, I really feel for Opie's daughter. Opie, if you read this, please try to at least take this to heart. The further you pry, the more you push your daughter away. I eventually cut all contact with my parents for nearly 4 years because they did exactly what you were doing. I only approached them because I needed to heal and move on. You are hurting your daughter so much. Please stop and let her live her life before it's too late. You're the a-hole, but you can easily stop being one. Please do. Am I the a-hole for frightening my nephew and making him traumatized for life? I had a cookout at my place on the 4th, and my 13-year-old daughter's Switch goes missing. I contacted family members, and my wife's sister, Kara, said my daughter gave it as a gift to her 6-year-old son, Stevie, for his upcoming birthday. I asked my daughter and she said it wasn't true. She let Stevie use it so they could all play Mario Kart together, and it went missing after the cookout. My daughter is upset, and I call Kara back, who insists that the Switch is now Stevie's, and my daughter is too old to play anyways or will outgrow it soon, and it was a gift to Stevie. She calls my daughter an Indian giver. After this, I contacted my uncle, who is a police officer, and he watches Kara's house, and a few of his friends go over and threaten to arrest Steve and Kara over stolen property. Kara reluctantly gives it back after an incident with the officer that she could have been arrested for. They warn Stevie that next time he steals, both him and his mom will go to jail, then let my sister-in-law go without incident. Sister-in-law says Stevie has been crying non-stop and having issues sleeping because he doesn't want to go to jail, and blaming me and my family for traumatizing her son. My response might have been heartless because it was, I guess he'll never steal again. And Kara thinks he'll be traumatized for life for making a big deal over a stupid game. Now for the top comments. Your sister-in-law got caught stealing and is trying to deflect by telling you her son is traumatized. She thought you would just back down and let her steal from your daughter. Not the a-hole. So you think the 6-year-old is secretly doing just fine after an honest-to-God police officer came to his house and told him that he was going to take him and his mom to jail? He's 6. It was his mom that turned a little kid moment of taking something you like into genuine theft. Hope he didn't traumatize the kid. The sister-in-law did by being a thief who was justifiably visited by the police. It sounds like sister-in-law also did something verging on arrestable based on how Opie describes it. I suspect that was actually what may have traumatized the kid. I'm never the first to defend cops, but in a situation like this, where it's some family member's goofy dispute with a kid involved, no cop is busting down the door going full code. It's, now listen kiddo, stealing is bad. It's why I have this job. Please don't make me do paperwork. They can be real pricks, but they are still people, not ghouls. Sister-in-law going bonkers though, will make cops do as cops do. Unexpected situations are where cops do notably poorly. Not a-hole. Stevie has bigger problems, like having a mother who likes to steal. Completely agreed. His mom is something else. I think people are glossing over that apparently there was an incident that Kara instigated with the officer that she could have gotten arrested for. Listen, sending the cops after a 6-year-old is nuts, but that's literally all Kara's fault. She refused to return it and instead insulted Opie's kid. If Opie had tried to retrieve it himself, he could have been arrested for trespassing or assault if he tried to go inside a house to get it. Kara reacted so belligerently to the officers that it could have ended in like actual jail time for her, other than the theft, and still was very reluctant. And only the threat of imminent arrest made her cough it up. She stole the Switch by enabling her son keeping it. Maybe she told him to take it. So it's actually appropriate to call the cops on someone who robs you. Again, what else was Opie supposed to do at that point? Once someone says, yeah, I have your stuff. No, I won't return it. Pound sand, loser. It actually is police time, sorry. Yes, it was the nuclear option and completely over the top, and that's all in Kara for taking it there. She really only has herself to blame. Next story. Am I the a-hole for making sister-in-law / her husband so uncomfortable that they left without eating? I'm 30 female and a mom of 4. I'm a doctor and my husband is a firefighter. Every year, my husband and I host a family barbecue the weekend after the 4th. Most of us are essential workers, so we can't celebrate on the 4th. My sister-in-law, a police dispatcher, and her husband, unemployed and has been for 2 years, have always been a bit of an annoyance to me personally. Her husband is an old-school Southern hillbilly who wears the man of the house title without earning it, as in thinking women and children are beneath him, and practically snaps his fingers at his wife to be doted on. Whatever, just not my cup of tea. My sister-in-law doesn't seem to mind. They are childless, but they do have 3 dogs that they bring everywhere with them. Well, we get the barbecue going and whatever, and everything is going fine, surprisingly. Usually by this time, sister-in-law and her husband are diving off into an argument about who are you voting for? At this point, they were being tame, thank God. But then dinner is ready, and I call on all the kids to come get in a line so I can serve them. Sister-in-law immediately goes running over to get to the front of the line for a plate for her husband, per usual, as they live in this 50s style men should eat first attitude. I told her to go sit down and he would be served after the children have eaten. This is an argument every single year. She scoffs at me and walks off, slamming herself on a chair and crossing her arms as her husband is shaking his head. I ignore it. I don't care about offending them anymore. But then their unruly dogs are trying to take food off the kids' plates. So I yell at the dogs and then turn to my sister-in-law and her husband and say, "Get your dogs away from the kids now, or they can go sit their butts in the car and wait for you there. You will not be bringing them next year." My sister-in-law throws her plate across the table, calls for her dogs and goes to the vehicle to, I assume, put them up. But then she comes back and yells at her husband to, "Let's freaking go. We obviously aren't welcome here." Mother-in-law tries to protest, but I say, "No, let them leave. Tired of dealing with this every freaking year." And yell to them, "Don't bother coming back." My husband is backing me 100%. Mother-in-law, not so much. She says I'm ridiculous for embarrassing them and making them feel unwelcome every year. Edited to add, they're fully aware that kids eat first in my house. I shouldn't have to repeat this every single year. As for the dogs, I told them they were only welcome here if they were leashed and away from all the food. They brought the leashes, but let their dogs roam with the leashes still on them as soon as they got their plates. Their leashes were attached while diving into the children's dishes. As for me being a doctor and a mom of 4, because apparently people can't fathom this, I graduated at 17, went to college at 18. I worked through each pregnancy while attending mostly online college and taking time off for maternity leave. I had my doctorate by the time I was 28. Not a-hole. They are terrible guests. Were. Now they're probably banned from OP's house. Not a-hole. They seemed shocked that they were expected to follow very reasonable and totally predictable norms at your gatherings. They don't need to come then. Seems just right. Mother-in-law can host them instead if she wants to. Not a-hole. Why do people always think that their dogs are welcome with them everywhere they go? Not all of us want to put up with your slobbering, smelly balls of allergies. Keep the dogs at home, or don't come at all. Especially if the dogs will be around kids and food. I won't tolerate dogs that jump or lunge for food, especially from kids. That's how someone gets bitten or knocked over. Not a-hole. Exactly. Although I could see some better ways this could have been handled. It does seem reasonable to just not invite them if they're constantly being disrespectful and disruptive. If you don't want to invite them to anything in the future, I'd probably include, in writing, the rules of your event. Guests will be humans only. Please leave all pets at home. And house rules are that children eat first before any adults. That gives you an easier ground to kick them out if they mess around. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister-in-law to maybe stop eating so much? My sister-in-law, 43 female, and her kid, 12 female, moved in with us. My husband, myself, and our 3 kids, 2 months ago. She's going through a divorce, and her ex took everything. The kid is not his, and a prenup was signed. We told her to just worry about her own food, so I didn't like the idea of eating together due to their history with food. I don't know how to put it nicely, so I guess I will go blunt. Her and her kid never stop eating. They both have severe health issues, as both of them combined are over 600 pounds and live a fat-positive life. Now it's none of my business, but when it comes to the kid, it's messed up. I don't care what anyone says. When a 12-year-old is pushing 220 pounds and has a doctor breathing down your neck, it's time for a change versus pushing body positivity. The kid is a great girl, but just her by herself could easily eat enough to feed 4 grown men who haven't eaten all day. So that was my stipulation, that they buy their own food and cook everything separate. I even cleaned out our entire pantry to give them for their own food space. Well, my kids and I needed a break and took off for a week to a resort. My husband didn't want to go, as he didn't want to leave them in our home unattended, but encouraged us to get out of here because we were pretty fed up with the company. I just spent almost $400 on food prior to leaving, so our freezer was full and so was our cupboards. This would feed us, me, husband, kids, for easily 2 weeks. Well, I got home last night and all of the food is gone. Every single bit of it. I know for a fact it wasn't my husband. He works 14 to 16-hour days and usually buys takeout on his way home when I'm not there, so he can just go to sleep when he gets back. I look into my sister-in-law's pantry, and all her food is gone too, which was full when I left. I immediately question it, and my sister-in-law apologizes and said her and her kid got hungry, and her legs hurt too much to drive to the store. I said, why the heck didn't you just get grocery delivery? And she said, I didn't think you would mind. So I snapped and said, obviously I freaking mind. You and your kid just ate well over $800 worth of food in a freaking week. $400 of it being mine, which you will be reimbursing me for. Maybe stop eating so damn much. And I walk off. Now she's mad at me and crying wolf to anyone who will listen for me fat-shaming her and her kid. Now for the top comments. I'm gonna get downvote to hell, but I don't care. Not a-hole. Your sister-in-law is abusing her child. Yes, she has a problem, but she is also responsible for her and for her child. So she needs to start doing something, and stop eating so damn much would be a good option. I agree wholeheartedly. It's dangerous for a child to be that size. The sister-in-law and her child probably should get counseling to see why they overeat. It could be a plethora of reasons why. OP is not a-hole. I'd be upset too. Groceries are so expensive nowadays. Fat shaming needs to come back into vogue for situations like this. Wow, what she's doing to herself is bad, but her kid though? That's abuse. On your dime. No, just no. Not a-hole, OP. Not a-hole. I would be freaking mad about this. Groceries are expensive AF right now, and that's just very inconsiderate. She could have at least replenished everything but decided to give you some BS excuse. Also, what she's doing to her kid is abuse. Plain and simple. When I was in grad school, my housemates would leave for the weekend and I'd get high and eat all her snacks. I'd go to the store before she got back and replace all and more. I'd always text her saying I was eating her stash and would replace them. Even if she had like 2 Oreos left, I'd buy a whole new pack for her. Not a-hole. Your sister-in-law literally stole from your family because she felt entitled to. Quite frankly, either she gives you the money or she finds another place to live. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not taking in my nephew while my brother is in prison? For background, I have an older brother, Mark, and both our parents have sadly passed. Mark has a son, Nick, who's 8 years old. Mom is not present. We have no other family since we come from a long line of small family trees. Mark and I keep in touch, but we are by no means close. I also have my wonderful husband, Jax. Jax and I both make quite good money and could potentially both retire now if we wanted. We are, however, both passionate about the career projects we are each working on. We have also chosen to be child-free, and he had a snip some years ago. We have quite a nice house and a place we love that we share with our 4 dogs. Mark has over the years had different issues with money, drug issues, and running with the wrong crowd. I've paid off some of his debt, around $60,000, over the years to keep him afloat, plus arranged for help with drug issues. We live in different ends of the country, however, and I have no real relationship with him nor his son. As far as I'm aware, he has little to no real support system, but since he's highly destructive, I've chosen to keep my distance. However, Mark recently reached out to let me know he's going to prison for 7+ years, and he would be sending nephew out to stay with me. I've heard nothing about this, and was completely taken aback. I haven't heard from Mark in over a year. I let him know that he could do no such thing, and I couldn't just take nephew in for years on end. However, nephew is set to go into foster care if Mark can't find someone to take him. I understand his horrible predicament, but Jax and I have no desire to bring a child into our care, and we feel royally unfit to care for this child. Mark remarked we both have more than enough time, money, and space to care for a child and gave me great grief for saying no. I offered full financial aid for nephew's expenses if Mark could find someone else trusted to take him in, but he said there's no one else willing in his life. I felt my offer was more than fair, and my heart breaks for their situation, especially my nephew, but I simply cannot provide him a good life, a place where he is wholeheartedly desired. These are exactly the same reasons husband and I are child-free, and why I declined being nephew's godmother back when he was born. Mark's lawyer has, however, contacted us along with Mark, continuously pressuring us to take him in. Apparently, nephew is also neurodivergent and quite a handful, and Mark's lawyer suspects he won't have success in foster placements. The things said about me are, however, very harsh and hurtful, and I'm wondering if I'm actually directly in the wrong here? Not a-hole. That's an outrageous demand on your brother's part, not to mention the lawyer. Even if the kid wasn't likely to be an unmanageable disaster, why in the world would you want to put up with it? Not your problem, to put it mildly. I am irate at how much Mark has failed his son, and then he tries to somehow make it out to be OP's fault? She has no obligation to put her life on pause, and Mark should have done everything in his power to get his act together for his son. Was thinking this, adding to the fact that Mark is not seemingly on good terms with OP either, doesn't sound great. Avoiding godmother status as well should already be a statement that she's not interested in the literal situation being presented to her. I feel awful for the kid because he's not at all responsible for any of this. Shame on Mark for just shoving his failure into his sister. I do not blame OP either, because I would not be ready or willing to handle the situation myself either. Also, children will sense when they know they're not wanted, even if they may not always understand what's going on. It will cause problems as well. Not a-hole. You have chosen the life for you and have made an already generous offer to try and assist. Although your nephew is in a horrible spot here, it doesn't make you responsible for all the bridges your brother has burned or the countless poor decisions made that got them here. I feel for you and your nephew and hope a resolution is reached. The resolution that's going to be reached is that the nephew is screwed. That doesn't make OP an a-hole, but let's not pretend it's going to be rainbows and sunshine for the now effectively orphaned nephew. Honestly, if OP has the money, why not send a kid to a boarding school? It may be cruel, but it seems like the best solution if they don't want a kid themselves. Kid is out of the way for 9 months of the year and only home for the holidays. He's young, but some boarding schools take kids that young in the US.